we're here today to show the impact of what happens when you have cooperation between the state level of government, the municipal level of government, and those of us in county government. We're joined today by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. We're joined by County Legislator David Tubiolo. We may have some of his colleagues join us. Chris Johnson is with us as well, both members of the County Board of Legislators, both representing Yonkers. We have with us here the outstanding state senator who leads the New York State Senate, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who will be speaking in just a second. And we're joined by Mayor Andre Wallace of Mount Vernon and Mayor Noam Bramson of New Rochelle. We're anticipating being joined by Mayor Andre Rainey of Peekskill as well to announce this program. Dr. Damia Harris-Madden, who is the outstanding leader of our Youth Bureau here in Westchester County, will be speaking and talk to you a little bit more in detail about the program, but we're happy to have some of the youth board leaders from around the county. Frank Williams from White Plains is with us here. My good friend Kelly Johnson from New Rochelle is with us here. We have Debbie Butler from Mount Vernon. We have a representative for Dr. Jim Bostic from Yonkers, who's with us here, Mr. Helm, and we'll be joined by other people as we go along in time and an effort. Very simply, New York State has changed its whole attitude in supporting local efforts under the new leadership of Andrea Stewart-Cousins in the State Senate. And what we're here today to celebrate is an allocation of money which Andrea and her colleagues in the State Senate, State Senator Shelley Mayers, State Senator Peter Harcum, Alessandra Biaggi, David Carlucci, Jamal Bailey. Have I missed anybody? Hopefully I got all of them. And all of them together have allocated through the state government a significant amount of money, $225,000, which will be channeled through the Westchester County Youth Bureau, bound for our 5 major urban cities where the pressure on the youth of today are very much at hand, in Mount Vernon, in New Rochelle, in Yonkers, in White Plains, and in Peekskill. And to be able to target money where it is most needed is really essential, and not just to target money for the sake of spending money, but for programs that we think will help young people with at-risk behavior to try to get them in the best positive light and the best positive path going forward. So without any further discussion on my part, I want to introduce a friend of mine. For 25 years, she has been a leader here in county government. She has certainly been a leader in state government. I have been more than honored to be one of the members that followed her leadership. And once again, she's leading the way. State Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Thank you so much. It's just such a pleasure to be here. As the county executive indicated, we walked these halls together, and I was very happy to serve under his leadership. And I know that Westchester County is very, very well served and has its priorities straight under the leadership of County Executive George Latimer. So it's great to be here with you and certainly with my colleagues in the county legislature and the good mayors who have joined us, Mayor Bramson, Mayor Wallace, my friend, the Deputy County Executive, and of course, the outstanding director of Westchester County Youth Bureau. Dr. Harris-Madden and I were talking before we came out, and she was again expressing how important it was that we come together and really make sure that our youth, you know, I think we talk about government, who government's supposed to work for and what government's supposed to do. And we understand that at the very least, we have to make sure we take care of our most vulnerable populations. And I think when we talk about vulnerable populations, we've got to look at our youth. And we've got to figure out how we can make sure not only that their lives are better now, but we're preparing them for the future. And we also, I think, all agree that education is essential. And so this is what this grant is about. Our kids are getting messages from everywhere. I'm a former teacher, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, and we know the messages are coming in, and everybody wants to grow up really, really fast. What we need to do is find ways to tell them risks, to explain to them their choices, and to set a path for them that they will be able to really make those choices. And that's what this grant will help do. With Senator Mayer, Senator Carlucci, Senator Biaggi, Senator Bailey, Senator Harcum, we who represent Westchester wanted to make sure that when the federal government cut an important program such as this, targeting the education of our youth that we were able to step in and say, no, not here in Westchester County. Our kids will get the support they need, and under the leadership, again, of the county executive and the commissioner who's understanding of children in profound ways, will make sure that this grant goes a long, long way in Mount Vernon, in Yonkers, in Peekskill, in White Plains, in New Rochelle, to make sure that our kids have the advantages they need to make the choices that will benefit them. So I'm happy to be part of this, and Mr. County Executive, I will turn the podium back to you.
Thank you very much. Next, I'm going to ask our outstanding head of our Youth Bureau, Dr. Damia Harris-Madden, to come to the podium to explain the program. Someone asked me in my 20 months so far in this job what I thought our greatest accomplishment was, and I said quickly and easily, it is attracting some of the most talented people in government to serve in positions of responsibility, because each of them have been creating the successes that we've had. And it's the vision of Damia in this job that has done so many positive things. We started off our tenure with the leadership of Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins in reallocating money right off the bat in our first month of the administration to these urban centers that were underfunded in the original 2018 budget. But it's been Damia that's really been the leader and the visionary in this area. And so I'm very grateful to be working with her, and I'm grateful that she can come and talk about her grantswomanship, I guess. That's really outstanding. Please.
Good morning. I typically don't use notes, but since we have our esteemed majority leader here, I had to at least make sure that I was succinct in my speaking. I, too, would like to thank all those that assembled today, particularly our Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and thank also the senators that are not present today, but also our mayors that joined us on the 11th hour of notice to support this great accomplishment. And I'd also be remiss if I did not acknowledge my staff that is here today that works tirelessly for the many different ideas that I just come up with, and they help me make it happen. And this is an example of one, but also my colleagues from across Westchester County, including Tuesday, Debbie, Frank, Bhavna, Mr. Helm, Kelly, and others that are joined through the Youth Bureau. We greatly appreciate this opportunity to receive the state funding that Leader Stewart-Cousins secured for us. And it's a really funny story, actually, because we wrote a grant in the 11th hour and took a shot for a federal grant that addresses health outcomes for young people, not knowing that it was designed for the states. But we took the shot. We said we're a county, and we clearly understand the needs when we look at the data, which suggests that our young people are devoid of education that speaks to their health outcomes and educational outcomes, and many opportunities that have been missed to support young people to further their dreams and their goals in life due to unwanted pregnancies, perhaps sexually transmitted diseases that they did not expect, but also just the lack of planning for their future early on. So this program targets young people actually in middle school. So we seized the opportunity and we said, let's take the chance. We were awarded, but 1 month later, we get a letter that states, the New York State Department of Health has assume this funding, and therefore your year will end effective September 30th, 2019. So, and this is not a bragging moment, but, in my many years of grant writing and evaluation, I had never seen anything quite like this, because this was a competitive grant we secured. And so we had to feverishly, work to try to fill this gap, because we understood the needs of Westchester County's young people. And so I went to Washington, D.C. I hunted down the commissioner of Family Services and Youth, who then pawned me off to New York State. And I said, wait, I have some contacts there. And I contacted them, and they said, our RFP is closed. And I said, well, this is a must. It is necessary. Had I known, I should have started with the Senate Majority Leader's office. I would have saved the county some dollars. Okay? So, That's right. So once again, I went off of my written path, but needless to say, we are extremely grateful and thankful for the New York State for stepping in, Simra, Brandon, and also Sue, who took my calls, met with me in Albany, and allowed me to explain why this gap in service would be detrimental to our young people. So again, we thank you. I see my ward president and ward members here as well. Thank you for coming. So just to speak about this partnership, my colleagues in Mount Vernon, White Plains, Rochelle, Yonkers, and now Peekskill as a result, which is a new site that we're very excited for, understand the social and health determinants that have undermined the safe passage of our young people. They truly get it because they're on the front lines, and they understand what these young people need, particularly in urban centers where poverty, economic disadvantage looms, but also due to cultural norms, we do have some instances where there are young people who are becoming pregnant, some that are dropping out of school, some that are contracting STIs and STDs, and other adverse health risks. So, we came together and decided to pursue funding for this. We will not stop. We will continue to expand as long as we're afforded opportunities. And ultimately, we hope to provide over 200 young people with opportunities to avoid negative health consequences, understand healthy and unhealthy relationships, because believe it or not, 11-year-olds are in what they think are relationships, and some of which may be unhealthy, and we can call them friendships. But this program really allows us to address how to form positive relationships with others, to understand value and feel autonomy, take charge of their futures and over their bodies, also to show dignity and respect for others, acknowledging that there are, very diverse people in this very diverse county. So we want to ensure that our young people have character development and are respectful of others. And we also want them to be successful in school. We want them to remain in school, follow the pathway from academics to second level, which might be higher ed, military, workforce development, et cetera. So this program is extremely comprehensive, and we are just very thankful for this opportunity. So I won't take up much more time. I know that the mayors want to express their thoughts on this, but I'd like to also thank my boss, both my bosses actually, for giving me the opportunity. And I think I know what Andrea might say, because I served Mount Vernon for 15 years as the executive director. It was bittersweet, but Andrea know that I'm in good hands, and I'm still doing the work to help the city of Mount Vernon and Rochelle, which I helped in Mount Vernon too. So thank you.
Thank you, Damia. And even though she had a very humorous presentation, it shouldn't be lost that her professionalism is how many of these grants happen, because she understands exactly how to work with our local communities and position a proposal that's attractive in Washington. And she did tell me about this. It had to go to a state stuff. And I told her, I said, listen, you put in that document, Westchester County is bigger than North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Vermont. You tell them we're bigger than some of those states. They don't need the money we do. Speaking of we need the money, my colleagues in municipal government who are here, I'm happy to have them say a few words. We have, an image in the region that Westchester County, as a suburban county, is this bucolic setting from a John Cheever novel. I mean, this is the county where Robin Laura Petrie lived, where Don Draper got on the train to go to the ad agency in Manhattan, and so many different things bespeak of the general wealth of Westchester County. But we have in both cities and in some of our villages urban areas that have the same concerns and difficulties that you have in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And I grew up in one of them, and I've had the opportunity to represent others of them. And you realize that we can't just sit back as a county on the laurels of the successful parts of the county. We have to do everything we can do to help our partners in the city governments make their cities and communities successful. The legislators who represent them are tigers on these issues. You cannot get people who fight harder for Yonkers, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, Peekskill, White Plains than those who represent them in this body of legislators. But the mayors of 2 of our cities, and perhaps the third one is going to join us. So first, let me introduce the mayor, fairly new mayor in my original home city of Mount Vernon, We know a lot about what we've read in the newspaper about Mount Vernon, but what he knows and I know and Damien, anybody else who's lived or currently lives in Mount Vernon, this is a city with tremendous people and a tremendous heart. They're fighters, and programs like this is going to help Mount Vernon on the road back. So Mayor Andrea Wallace of Mount Vernon, please.
Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the county exec and Andrea Cousins Stewart and Damien, who I want back. You took her from us, you know. But and Mayor Branson and all. This is a very important grant, because as I look at Mount Vernon, as we're working hard down there to overcome a lot of situations, this is something that is going to help us move our city forward. We have in our school system over 1,000 homeless children in our city. So with this kind of help, which we already have a deficit of problems that we got to overcome, this is something that we can use to be able to overcome those situations, because our youth have enough problems dealing with what they're dealing with today, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that we give them every tool that they need to succeed. Our children are tomorrow. Those are the ones that are going to stand on our shoulders as we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. So it is important that we make sure we keep our shoulders broad and make sure that we keep our shoulders strong, because we have to carry them. And right now, as Damien said about the youth that are in these relationships, I see it all the time. We have conversations. We've started a lot of things with our school programs to start to do after-school programs, and being able to open up dialogue with the kids to be able to give them someone to speak to, someone to look up to. We need more mentors in our community. We need more fathers stepping up in our community. We need more mothers stepping out of the community. Our schools is not for just to send them for babysitting. Everybody has to get involved in order for this to work. And with this step that we're getting right now with grant funding, it always helps us move forward. It gives us the opportunity to bring out the best in our children. And the children is what we need to focus on, because that is the true treasures in our lives. It's not what we have, it's who we have. And to be able to do this for our kids and move forward with their progress and their development is outstanding, because it's a benefit to us all. Because at the end of the day and at the end of the road, we all want to say we made a difference in the lives of those who came behind us. And this is a big and huge step. And I want to thank everybody standing on this stage who made this possible. And once again, Damien, who's always been incredible. We've been working together for years. We've done many grants together for children for years. And I'm glad she's here with the county. Long as she didn't leave the state, I feel I feel good that we are going to be okay in Mount Vernon, and a new day has started. So thank you all for coming. Bless you all.
We've been joined by State Senator Shelley Mayer, who will be sharing her thoughts in a couple of moments. I want to introduce the mayor of New Rochelle next. I must tell you, as a boy originally from Mount Vernon, I never thought I would fall in love with New Rochelle. They are, sort of rivals in a lot of different ways. But I've represented New Rochelle as a major city for a longer period of time than any other major city in the county. And in every nook and cranny of that city, you see things that are changing for the better. As you drive through New Rochelle today, you're seeing cranes in the downtown area for new buildings that are going to go up, and a new revivification of downtown. But even more importantly is the improvement in the human infrastructure of New Rochelle. The DRI allotment that just came, that now Peekskill has gotten the follow-up year allotment in the Lincoln Avenue corridor, is going to change lives in New Rochelle. And so Mayor Noam Bramson, who has been a colleague of mine now all of this time that we've worked together, now has another opportunity to show his leadership as he has already. Mr. Bramson.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am ever more impressed by George's ability to be the favorite son of every community in Westchester. It is a remarkable and useful talent in this business that we're in together. So I thank you for that, George. And Damien mentioned that Mayor Wallace and I arrived here in the 11th hour. Let me assure you that when you deliver more than $200,000 to our communities, we will show up in any hour that you like. You just give us the word. We can do this again tomorrow if you'd like. So the others have been so comprehensive in describing the value of these programs that I can be very, very brief and just say that we all have a stake in young people making good choices. A stake not just in their avoiding negative outcomes, which are a burden for all of us, but making sure they seize positive outcomes from which all of us benefit. You know, our communities are only going to achieve their potential when all of the young people within them have an opportunity to be their very best. So I don't think of this as resources simply directed to one vulnerable subset of our region. I think of this as an investment in the lives and the communities that we share together. And in that spirit, I express my sincere thanks to Senator Stewart-Cousins, to Senator Mayer and their colleagues for their outstanding leadership, to the county executive and his entire team for being such wonderful partners, to Kelly Johnson, my own Youth Bureau Director, who's been a stalwart for many, many years. And with these resources, we're going to do an even better job for the young people we all care about together. Thank you.
So I'd like our State Senator Shelley Mayer to say a few words. Shelley, in her year and a half as a senator, has done more than I did in my 5 years in the same seat. I was with her on Thursday last week where she delivered some nice vans for our Yonkers seniors. I'd go in with cookies. She comes in with vans. So I think she's doing a good job. Senator?
Slight overstatement, but it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to commend my leader, Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins, because if you sat in our new Democratic Majority Conference, you would see how the issue of youth throughout the state is probably among the top 3 issues that our members care about. And her prioritization of money for youth bureaus throughout the state, and particularly grants like this, is a reflection of our collective desire to make sure that young people not only have the helping hand up, as Mayor Bramson said, but get to spread their positive values through our communities. We're not talking only negative. We're talking about the power of each one of these kids to be true players in our world and to have a chance. I see it every day in the young people I deal with through my Senate district, certainly through White Plains and New Rochelle. I don't have Mount Vernon, sorry, Mayor. But I have Yonkers, and you know, there is something very special when you get the opportunity to affect a young person's life. It is a really, for the giver as well as the receiver, it's a moment, it's a transformative moment. So thank you for your leadership, leader, on making sure these funds come out the door. And I'm so proud to be part of a Senate that is really fighting for every young person in our state. Every young person, regardless of where they live. That is our job, and that's what we're committed to do. So congratulations.
So I know I've taken a bit of a lighthearted approach here today, but this is serious business. This is a serious allocation of resources, and I think it represents 2 things. It represents the level of cooperation that can come from different levels of government, the state, the county, and the municipal level, and it also represents a bipartisan commitment. There are Republicans and Democrats together that have joined forces to do these things. And in a world where there seems to be no cooperation between governments and there seems to be no cooperation between political parties, this is a story that underlies or belies that statement. So we're very happy to do this in joint fashion. So we'll turn to our friends in the press. Any questions you have directed to any of us as you see fit, and I'll traffic cop the question if that's appropriate. We have representatives here from some of our media outlets. Michelle? I believe so, but Damia, do you want to just reference that?
Yes. So our 5 cities, through their youth bureaus and also the Nepperhan Community Center, will receive an allocation. We are also partnering with Cornell for training, as well as the Los Angeles Children's Hospital for their evidence-based and medically accurate curriculum.
Any other questions to us as a group? If not, you're welcome to. I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
I know you work with kids in Mount Vernon. Can you say, either mayor, specifically how the money will be used in your city?
Well, basically, I would have to sit down with our youth director, which is sitting here right now, Debbie, and then we'll go through how it's got to be spent to make sure that it's allocated in a proper way and spread out throughout all the needs throughout the whole entire community.
Same answer.
Any other questions? If not, you're welcome to interview any of our guests individually as soon as we break up. thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.